All right, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews, and today we're going to be talking about Episode 1, Georgia, of the new Amazon Prime series. I have not looked that far into it because I watched it last night. And I watched it last night before I went to bed, and I really probably shouldn't have. I didn't have any bad dreams, but I was worried that I was going to have them. In fact, that's why I didn't watch a second one, because because that first episode was traumatizing, to say the least, in a way. And so let's talk about this, because this one really hits you right in the face. And this will probably, I haven't watched the rest of them. I don't know if I'll review the rest of them. I am going to watch the rest of them. I probably watch the second one tonight before I go to bed. Another probably big mistake, but you know, whatever. I've made them before. I will make more. Uh, and in fact, after watching the first episode of this, I was wishing that I had just reviewed this yesterday instead of Hacks. While I do like Gene Smart, I liked this better, and this is something that I probably will review more episodes of. I don't know if I'll review all of them, though. So we'll see how it goes. But this show, directed by Barry Jenkins, who did Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk, a very acclaimed director. I myself, gonna say it, did not see Moonlight. I basically feel like I've watched the movie with how many reviews I've seen of it. And I also haven't seen If Beale Street Could Talk. But after realizing who this guy is, I probably should start watching his highly awarded and critically acclaimed movie. And I don't really know too many people who didn't think it was a good movie, I should say. The words enjoy for a movie like Moonlight, I don't know. I'll have to watch it to know if I'll enjoy it. But this show is kind of an alternate reality of the experiences of the Underground Railroad that took slaves that were running from the south to the north. You know, we all know, if you don't know, the Underground Railroad wasn't an actual railroad. There weren't actual underground railroads until I think 1863, if I read that correctly. The Underground Railroad was a group, places along the routes, where people would hide slaves that were running to get away. It was a connection of abolitionists and people who disagreed with slavery, that were trying to help runaway slaves get free. As free as you could at that point in time in the country. But in this show, there is an actual railroad. There is an actual Underground Railroad. And so they're doing something different. They're not disrespecting history or anything by making this a little bit more dreamlike, even though most of it's like a nightmare. It's a very interesting thing. And the first thing I thought of when I was watching this and thinking about the way that this is filmed and the way that this is shot and the subject matter, made me think of the trailer for Antebellum. Now, I know Antebellum was this modern day crossed with the past, this thing. But when I watched that trailer, that's the feel I got while I was watching this. And I feel like that Antebellum wishes that it could be half as good as this, because I had high hopes for Antebellum. I really did. But as a movie, it just didn't really work for me. And I don't think it worked for a lot of people either. But hey, you can't all be winners. I was stoked for that movie. But this, just the way it's shot and the way it's filmed, it just had that feel of that time period, that horrifying, like, I say it like I was there, right? We can only imagine. It's been so long. Everybody's been dead. If you want to know about what happened, you have to read books, or you have to have it like talk to somebody who had this story, the stories passed down to them through other family members. We're getting so far away from it all that, we can't say, oh man, I can't believe, if I was there, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, this really puts you in that time and place. The other thing it made me think of was that came close to this. It would be like Roots, 12 Years a Slave, and like The Color Purple. While both had very, 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 very harsh situations going on in that, this goes to that level of like Roots. It don't feel Hollywood. Like as good as 12 Years a Slave and The Color Purple was, it felt Hollywood. Color Purple, when you really realize it's a Steven Spielberg movie, it looks and feels like a Steven Spielberg Hollywood movie. 12 Years a Slave, like you got Michael Fassbender and Brad Pitt. It feels like a Hollywood movie. This feels about as authentic as you can get, the same way Roots felt really authentic. The thing is like that authentism comes at a price, and that price is your dreams and your nightmares that you're going to have watching this, and the tremendous amount of guilt. I don't think it matters what race you are, that you're going to feel awful watching this part of history, as you see these characters at this plantation be mistreated by their masters. And the story so far in episode 1 deals around Cora, played by Thuso Mbedu. I hate that when you have an MBEDU in your name, I'm going to mess it up. So I'm trying to say it. Thuso Mbedu, or just Thuso Mbedu. I don't know. I don't mean any disrespect. Cora and Aaron Pierre, who plays Caesar, are the two main characters in this, and their experiences on this plantation and how they come to run from this place, what gets them to run from this place. And right from get-go, right, it really, like I've said, it feels like you're there. But immediately like the very first beginning part of this, the imagery of what kind of going backwards and stuff, and like kind of seeing where like images of where this whole show is going to go and things you're going to see, was haunting enough. But the first scene when the masters come to the little revelries that the slaves are having after a long day, felt like something that like you would see in a film where the Nazis come walking into a room. Or it reminded me of the scene in Inglourious Bastards when Christoph Waltz comes into the house at the beginning of that movie, and he's looking for Jews. There's a tension there that is in this entire episode. In every scene, there is that level of tension where you're waiting for something horrible to happen, and it just keeps building and building until it just erupts. And it's very disturbing to watch what happens to these people. And one of the things that I like about this is, like I talked about this not feeling Hollywood, is the fact that there's no like stars in this. There's no huge stars in this. Now, Joel Edgerton did produce this. Brad Pitt did produce this. Joel Edgerton is in this. You do have the guy who played Chidi Adeganye, William Jackson Harper from A Good Place. He's in this. You got veteran actors like Peter Mullen in this too. But, Lily Rabb's in this. Damon Harriman, who's been making a lot of the rounds in a lot of different movies. I believe he's an Australian actor. He was the one who played Charles Manson briefly in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But for the most part, yeah, there's no faces that are going to distract you from this. And her, in general, like I said, Thuso Mbedu, oh boy. And Aaron Pierre, oh boy, man. Oh my gosh. So Aaron Pierre, who plays Caesar's an educated man. But he was supposed to be freed, and he got sold into slavery after his master died. And now he's here. And he's not happy. Who would be? And Cora is just kind of a typical slave. And when I say typical, there's nothing typical about this performance, though. This performance is so heartbreaking. This character is so when we say that there's innocence, there's an innocence to this character and to a lot of these characters that in this show that I've never seen before. I've never seen it captured so well. At least I in recent memory, I can't put anything to this. To the point where in shows like The Handmaid's Tale or any show that gets the audience riled up, or we're yelling at the screen going, do this, do that. Why don't you do this or that? Like, you have to realize that, these characters don't do these things because they wouldn't. It's one of those shows where you go, like, you wonder why the slaves, you might wonder for a second, why didn't the slaves just rise up and kill all the white people? But when you watch this, you realize, it's something that we should all already know, but it took watching this to make me remember the conditioning and the absolute breaking down of their culture, of their identities, of their confidence, of their self-esteem, however you want to put it. They have destroyed what makes these people individuals and literally made them just things. Or that they've learned to be just things so well that, through fear and intimidation and not just that, I mean the horrifying murders and rapes and beatings and it just to the point where there's no they're like whipped dogs. A whipped dog's either gonna bite or it's gonna, cower. I don't know. I feel like when I talk about this stuff, I don't know. I don't really know. I assume I'm trying to put myself in their shoes. I'm trying to think of what this would really be like. And all I can think of is that absolute decimation of individuality, of self, to where you have to almost believe that you dare to have an individuality, your own personality. Because you have no dreams, you can't have dreams, hopes, aspirations. All you can hope for is to make it through the next day, get food in your stomach, and hopefully get through it together, But to what end do these people's lives mean anything? They don't. And it's just heartbreaking to witness. But I'm utterly fascinated and I couldn't look away. You shouldn't look away, right? There's a scene where a runaway slave is captured by Joel Edgerton and he's brought back. And what happens to him is so horrifying that it makes, like, this is why I don't really care about slasher movies and things like that, is because it's just so ridiculous and over the top. It's the real stuff. It's the things that happen, the actual things that happen. The real horrors are what we do to each other every day. And the fact that it's happening at like a little dinner party, that it's like, let's have dinner while a man is hung and whipped and then dispatched in such a cruel fashion in front of everyone. It's just a lot. But again, mesmerizing and so well acted and so well shot, and you feel like you could step through the screen and be there. It makes you kind of like want to run from it almost. It made me feel like running from it, but I needed to continue. And even when there's the decision to be made to leave, after witnessing what they just witnessed, Caesar and Cora, trying to go away, get away. There's the reality, the thing that, like, those plantations, where they're at, they're surrounded. They're put, these plantations are made, and they're not just They don't just happen to be around these things. Are built around these areas so that if you run, you might, it discourages anyone from running. Where are you going to go when it's just everyone's after you and there's you just swamps and snakes and other things that can kill you? And so you have to deal with that too. And when they finally, because we are talking spoilers about this, right? When they finally get to a place that's like safe haven, that's the place where the Underground Railroad begins, even that is this tense situation where you don't know how it's going to go down. And, the person running it is not that, it's got some very brutal realities, to talk to them about. And this actress who plays Cora, like I said, I've never seen absolute innocence where you look at where you can try to see through her eyes and understand how she really has such a blank slate to herself that she just really doesn't understand anything but what she's been living. And so to actually go and see other places and to start experiencing the outside world, it is like a child, a baby. Like if you ever look at a baby and you're just like, you can just tell it that, yeah, they're looking around, but they don't understand a thing. That's what it felt like. You look at her performance, her face is so childlike that I had to keep reminding myself that this is a grown woman who just does not know anything other than this little microcosm of a nightmare. And where this show will go, there was a little trailer for what's going to come and everything. It makes it even more like fantastical. Like, is this really happening? I kept wondering, are they dreaming this? Or is this like when I had to look it up to find out that this was like an alternate kind of version where there in this story there is an actual underground railroad and tunnels and places that they take you to. And I can't this enough. But like a lot of things, this is important to African Americans. Should be a show that everyone should watch. I imagine that this will be a show that they eventually show in history classes. Eventually, I don't know what, you'd have to have a real cool history teacher or, a college course, whatever. But I feel like, there's also that the people who really need to see this are the ones who will never watch this. The people who really need to wake the fuck up. Because I think some people, there's a very, very small, hopefully small, number of people that will watch this and be rooting for the slave masters in this country. They'll be going, I can't wait for the part where they get them slaves back. Because that's the other thing about this, is it just makes me even angrier about how things are today. Is that you look at this, you watch something like this, and you realize how nothing other than being actual slaves on plantations, so there is so much that has not changed for the African American experience in this country. And while yes, we are heading towards the 200-year anniversary, in a couple of decades, a few decades of the 200 years since that started. And as far as we've come, we haven't come far enough. And that is why it's important to remember this stuff. Because we have to keep making more change for everyone in this country. Because the fact that I watch this and I see the way white people are then and now. I've talked about this many times where I live in an area that is just, I'm in Illinois and I feel like I'm in fucking Mississippi in the 1960s sometimes. the more rural you get out here in the Midwest. It just is become, maybe it already was, maybe it always was, and I just didn't see it. But I hear how people talk around here. I see how people act, and I can just tell you right now that if this had, you can see how this happens. You can see how people are. And if we as a people can't start really truly accepting each other, that we all deserve to live and have happiness and jobs and peace of mind, and be able to go outside and not worry for our lives, and everybody deserves to have that. Every single person deserves to have that. There are people who still think African Americans aren't people in this country, and they'll sit there and they'll smile and they'll think that, hey, because I'm nice to the black guy at the grocery store, I'm not a racist. Maybe I'm ranting now, but it's just not enough. And when I watch stuff like this, I'm glad that there are filmmakers making this stuff to make us remember, make us think. Pick up a book and read about this stuff, so we don't let things like this happen again, so we can actually make real change for every single American in this country, and maybe help out other people all over the world. But I'm going too far. I think I'm going too far off the map. But I highly recommend this show. It is not for the weak stomach. You have to have a strong will to watch this, because this is not an easy sit, but it's highly, highly worth it. Barry Jenkins knocks it out of the fucking park with this. The production level, the sound, the act, just every single thing, man. The cinematography, all just top notch. That really makes you feel like you're there in the worst possible way possible. So anyway, that's what I think of the first of the Underground Railroad. So if you happen to like what I'm saying here, please hit the like button. If you're not a subscriber, please consider becoming a subscriber. We are under 200 subscribers away from 2,000. Let's make it happen to 2,000 so we can keep talking. I still feel motivated to talk about wonderful programming like this. And we will be talking more about shows like this kind of caliber, more than the Marvel stuff. I'm surrounded by my pop culture stuff, but I get more satisfaction actually talking about things like this. Shows that matter more. All right, more matter on the world stage more. The more the stuff that really can help and make you think, I guess. So I don't know. It's been a long day. So have a great day, everybody. Be good to each other, and we'll see you on the next video. Maybe one of these.